Hello everybody. So in this video, I want to talk about MicroStrategy and specifically how MicroStrategy could earn yield beyond 2030. How could this work? But before I do, I need to highlight the strategy right now for the dollar gain, the BTC dollar gain. We know Saylor has guided a $10 billion BTC gain for this year, 2025. And I think this strategy is going to work and keep working for years to come. What are the main ways that right now Saylor is, as he says it, printing a dollar bill for $3. That interview dates back from when the price to NAV, the common share price to NAV, was a 3x. Right now, the common share price to NAV is a 1.5x. So the strategy that he's used so far, the main story of MSTR so far, has been an ATM story. What he's done so far is he's issued stock at a higher price than the Bitcoin on the balance sheet, took the difference and bought Bitcoin, which means that $1 of dilution brings $1.80 in. And that's the plan that I think is going to adjourn as soon as he's done with the final $4 billion. And even these $4 billion might be kept for when the price to NAV really heats up a little more. Another way that he's printing dollar bills for more than $1 is convertible debt. Of course, that's the 21 billion convertible debt plan. That's the one that he is in the middle of right now. Issuing convertible debt. The last issuance was $2 billion. There's about 14 billion left on that plan, and really issuing convertible debt is akin to printing $1 for $3. But there's a catch, right? It's $3, but it's down the road. The conversion happens down the road. Most of the convertible converts in 29, 30, 31, 32. So that conversion is down the road, and you're earning the premium today, hence the 3x price to NAV. And then we have the new strategy, the nascent strategy. He just announced this one. It's the Strike Preferred at the Market plan, offering doing an ATM on Strike, the preferred that yields 8%. He's going to pay 8% yield on those. Many people in the comment section ask me, how is he going to pay 8% yield on $21 billion? Well, he's going to earn $10 billion BTC yield this year. That's what he guided. So that part of that BTC yield would go to pay the Strike Preferred coupon. That would be my take. But Preferred is really compelling because, of course, the Preferred starts converting when MicroStrategy breaks $1,000 a share and is trading at $240, $250 right now. And so actually, the price to NAV is about a 7x, a 7 to 8x NAV when he taps the ATM on Strike. I calculated that in my prior video on MicroStrategy. So the Strike Preferred ATM plan is akin to printing $1 for $7, roughly, right? But dilution down the line, of course. And the last one that he has announced yet, he has not announced yet, but I think he will, is to just do regular bonds, just plain vanilla bonds, just simple bonds. And of course, this will have no yield. This will be just pure leverage. He's done that in the past, and that's why this company unfairly gets the FUD of being a high leverage play. It's actually not a high leverage play. The strategy this year and in 2024 has been mostly an ATM strategy and much less of a normal bond strategy, but it still has that bad reputation because it did that in the early 2020s. I think that is coming back as soon as the capital structure from ATMing on these three components, as soon as the capital structure is very strong. I think the company will be able to handle perhaps 21 billion worth of normal bonds, right? If AT&T has 200 billion of debt and they're going to be disrupted by Starlink, why the hell couldn't MicroStrategy have a $21 billion of debt backed by the strongest form of capital? And of course, he's highlighted that in the Investor Day plan, the presentation from November, masterclass in corporate finance, if you ask me. He showed us that there would be a dividend preferred stock. That came, right? And the fixed coupon was still outlined in that plan. And my guess is that there will be a fixed coupon at some point. MicroStrategy, there's a lot of money making on MicroStrategy. A lot of people make money on MicroStrategy. Of course, MicroStrategy options. If you write options on your MSTR shares, you're happy about that. People who buy MSTX, MSTU, I think that's very risky, very short term, but they're happy about that. The Bitcoin spot price is happy to have a buyer in the form of MicroStrategy, but MicroStrategy itself makes money issuing equity, issuing convert, issuing an MSTR dividend in the form of the preferred shares, and soon, in my view, issue just a plain bond. This is what the corporate finance of MicroStrategy looks like. It looks more and more like a private investment bank that issues a bunch of instruments as opposed to selling a product. The money in MicroStrategy comes through the balance sheet afterwards, but the cash flow statement. The cash flow statement is how the money flows through MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy sees itself, and he's used this analogy before, they see themselves as a refinery that can issue and give you some high octane, highly unstable fuel, or can issue very low octane, low volatility fuel, and this is what these assets are. Some of them are high volatility, like the equity. Some of them are low volatility, like the fixed coupon, and there's even third-party companies like MSTX, MSTU, who give you even more volatility on top of the volatility. But Saylor really owns equity, convert, dividend, and soon, in my view, fixed. That's what he will be issuing. And now, let me talk about a potential future. Beginning with the obvious. Right now, MicroStrategy issues common shares, converts, preferreds. They issue that in the United States. I think one of the ways to extend the yield and extend the first strategy would be to issue them elsewhere than in the US. For example, in Europe. This is something that long-established companies usually often do. They'll do, for example, rate arbitrage. They'll borrow money in Europe and invest around the world. This is something that, oil companies do, big companies do that. They can have their common shares listed in multiple markets at the same time to get the funds from these investments. So could MicroStrategy list its equity, list its bonds, list its converts? Could they list it in Europe? Well, that's a possibility. I would argue that's a rather annoying alternative in the sense that you have a lot of compliance, a lot of paperwork to do. I don't think Saylor would go for the hassle, but that's something he could do to get in more money through the MicroStrategy door. But beyond just listing the shares in foreign markets, I think what he is more likely to do with the new digital finance framework that the current US administration is working on, what he's more likely to do is the same as what Coinbase is doing. You've seen a few days ago Coinbase announce that they are revitalizing their plan of a coin stock, of tokenizing coin stock and offering it on blockchain rails. Of course, Coinbase would offer it on the Ethereum blockchain because they have Base, a layer 2 on Ethereum, and they're like deep in Ethereum. So they would issue it on the Ethereum blockchain, but coin stock could be trading as a token on the blockchain. And if this is the future of finance, which I believe it is, then I could see a future where MicroStrategy common stock ends up being listed on all sorts of layer ones, including ETH, including Solana, right? Including SUI. And if you've been following Michael Saylor, you know that he's greatly softened his stance on other blockchains than Bitcoin. We have a different Michael Saylor. If you see about the way he speaks about the industry, I have, in my view, little doubt that one day the MicroStrategy common stock will be listed on the digital finance rail, the blockchain finance rails, and we could even have MSTR debt, MSTR preferreds, the converts. They could also be listed on digital finance rails, and because Coinbase or MicroStrategy, of course, are digital finance kings. They're like they're the praised companies in the field of digital finance. They could get a lot of money through crypto rails, through the crypto door. So that would be a way for them to extend the strategy of printing dollar bills at a premium, printing dollar bills at a high price to NAV. Now let's move beyond that. Let's move issuing the equity and the debt instruments and all of the instruments. Let's move beyond issuing those instruments on either foreign markets or blockchains. And let's now talk about pure strategies to earn a yield with money. How to make money with more money in the world of Bitcoin. And that's why I say this is a vision past 2030. How could MicroStrategy earn yield past 2030? Because if the price to NAV compresses enough, let's say the price to NAV gets to a 1.1 or a 1.15, for example, even though technically you would still accrete, it will become difficult for you to explain this to your shareholders that you're just doing a 1.1 or 1.15. Your shareholders will be like, well, you know what? You're not earning a big yield on diluting us. You're still outpacing, but you're barely outpacing the dilution, right? By 10% or 15%. Sure, it's accretive, but the market still doesn't understand why you dilute. Nobody does all that calculation. It's not as satisfactory as it used to be. You got to do something else. You got to get back to those yields that you used to have in 2025. I think that will be part of the conversation. I think the market will be critical of him issuing new shares at price to NAV, say, under 1.1, even though it would still accrete. I want to insist on that. It would still accrete, but I don't think he would do it because of market perceptions. The point is, there's other ways to make money. Once you can't print $1 for $1.80, there's other ways to make money, and I'm going to go through that. The first way to make money is to have some hedge fund activities. Simply have some directional bets. This is a BTC up strategy, and he's done this strategy before. Simply borrow against your Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin. He did that before. Borrowed something, I think it was $200 million or something from an exchange, then bought back the debt at a greatly depreciated price. That was a genius move, by the way. But you could just make a directional bet on Bitcoin's rise and just borrow more Bitcoin and have a little leverage in the balance sheet. And of course, this bet would not yield a yield like a Bitcoin yield or a Bitcoin dollar yield. It would simply yield a gain over the years, an investment gain. It would be an investment gain, and an investment gain, of course, in the case of MicroStrategy, that would never be booked. So that's option number one. Option number two would be to lend the Bitcoin, and there's three flavors of that. So there's, first of all, lending the Bitcoin to nation states, which are presumed safe. Then there would be lending the Bitcoin to too big to fail banks, which are just an extension on nation states. And then, and this is very controversial in Bitcoin, but you could simply lend the Bitcoin to entrepreneurs, but you would have to lend it at medieval yields. Medieval yields. Why do I say medieval yields? I say yields that predate the Medici banking era. Yields like they were in the 1200s, the 1100s, in the medieval times. When you lend money, say it's year 900, and you lend money to a merchant and there's a crusade or something, you never see that gold again. And so you had to charge fortunes in interest. I'm talking 50% yearly interest in order to risk not seeing your gold again, because the merchant was going to go across the country and there could be vagabonds. You could there were many perils that meant that they would never come back to the lender to pay back the loan. So entrepreneurs, I believe they would need to require medieval APYs to actually lend Bitcoin to entrepreneurs. Nation states and too big to fail banks, that's very different. They could potentially require lower yields. And why would a nation, or why would a too big to fail bank want to borrow Bitcoin? Well, it's very simple. If we move to a more Bitcoinized world, more and more people are going to be aware of the issues with fiat. And so your trading partners, if you're a nation, for example, they may not accept to sell you oil against fiat, against your dollar, and against your devaluating currency of your country that he can just print. They may call your bluff and say, I'll sell you oil, not a problem, but I'm not going to sell you oil against your fiat. I'm not going to sell you oil against, I don't want to pick a currency, but I want Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell you oil against, I don't know, Indian rupees, probably a bad example or whatever, but I'm going to sell you gold. I'm going to sell you oil against Bitcoin. Please give me Bitcoin. And so it depends on the currency. Like, right, Turkish lira is another, is perhaps a better example than the Indian rupee as a currency that is rapidly devaluing. If you have a currency that is rapidly devaluing, they may say, okay, well, I'll send you oil, my friend, but I want to be paid in Bitcoin. I don't want to be paid in your fiat. And the same is true for armies. Like if your armies agree to risk their lives, they may not want to be paid in soon to be debased fiat. They may want to be paid in Bitcoin. And if you read anything about Bitcoin and the history of Bitcoin, they'll talk to you about the United Kingdom and the devaluation of the pound back during World War I. Like that was a big deal. They were paid in pounds, but it's like, okay, you had to devalue the currency forever, and so really the people weren't get paid their fair expectation, at least. So this is a business model right here: lending to states, lending to banks, too big to fail banks, and lending to entrepreneurs. This is a business model to earn interest, similar to a Bitcoin yield. This would be earning interest, and I believe it could be possible. Then moving on to more blockchain-oriented solution. One solution could be to list your Bitcoin on all sorts of layer 1 blockchains. And the layer 1 blockchains, of course, Bitcoin is also technically a layer 1, but I'm talking about smart contracts blockchain. The layer 1 blockchains, modern ones, Ethereum, Solana. What you could do is you could list your Bitcoin on those blockchain, and you could do a wrapped Bitcoin, for example. And WBTC is the name of it in Ethereum, but I mean wrapped Bitcoin in the way we understand it in the blockchain world. But you could just create a token for Bitcoin represented on other blockchains. And so TBTC or CBBTC, which is the Coinbase version of Bitcoin, that's an example on Solana. And in this business model, you either earn yearly fees, it's less common, or you earn conversion fees, which is whenever someone wants to convert Bitcoin and move it to the Solana blockchain, they pay a little fee. So it's a fee-based business model to turn your Bitcoin into a wrapped token or a wrapped Bitcoin, and there's fees on the velocity between the wrapped token and the unwrapped token, and you earn a fees on how quickly people want to get the pure form BTC or how long they want to keep the I don't want to say diluted, but the wrapped BTC on another blockchain, on another layer. It's a way you could earn money. Moving on, other ways to earn money. This one is controversial, especially if you follow the story of FTX, but it will come back. This story will come back, and the whole idea is minting your own stablecoin backed by Bitcoin. The idea of minting a stablecoin backed by Bitcoin. I realize this is still a controversial idea in 2025, but maybe, and you know what, maybe in 2030 it will be controversial, maybe in 2035 it won't. But the whole idea is MicroStrategy could mint a stablecoin, could mint $1 backed by Bitcoin. So imagine if MicroStrategy were to mint a stablecoin and back it by say $1 is backed by $5 worth of Bitcoin. And over time, of course, in this method, well, you make money in two ways in this method. You make money by freeing up your balance sheet, and you make money also on the fees that you would earn from either the movement of the stable coin or from trading on the stable coin, from conversion on the stable coin. There's many ways you could earn fees with that. But Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy could issue, say, a USD strategy or a USD MicroStrategy, if you still call it the old name, and you have USDC, you have USDT. Why wouldn't we have USD STR or USDS, which is just US dollars moving on layer 1 blockchains like Solana, but that US dollar was not minted by Tether. It was not backed by Coinbase and Circle and owns US bonds. It is a US dollar that is backed by Bitcoin and a US dollar that is not backed by US bonds. I'm not saying this is what he's gonna do. This is one of many options that I discuss in this video, but a lot of people claim, actually, I'm not sure a lot of people, but I know this is an explored idea. This is an explored idea in the Bitcoin space. And so if he could do that, that's Money Printer 2.0, if he could actually do that. Now, moving on from this idea of, say, issuing stable coins backed by Bitcoin, something that I think could be possible in the future, what else could you have? Well, then he could create his own pairs, right? He could create a pair of Bitcoin to USD, right? Or you could create a pair of Bitcoin to the MSTR token, assuming that a MicroStrategy stock token is issued on blockchains in the future. Or you could issue a Bitcoin to, say, the MSTR convert token. So the point is, if he can mint stable coins, if he can list his stock on the blockchain, then you can create liquidity provider tokens on a bunch of trading exchanges like Jupiter, like like Uniswap, all of that, and you can make money on these liquidity provider tokens, because you may know that in blockchain it's all about the pairs, it's all about making money on the pairs and listing the pairs. It is not the same order flow system that you have in TradFi. It's all about the pairs. At least a lot of the main ones. And so I could see a future where MicroStrategy just lists 5 big trading pairs and earns money on these trading pairs, just like Robinhood earns money on your stocks with the exchange and with the payment for order flow. I think this is entirely possible, and this would be a way to earn money from a fee-based business model, minting liquidity provider tokens. And if you own both parts of the liquidity provider token, that's even more powerful. Of course, another way would be to simply just get some US dollar or buy some US dollar and hold the US dollars and then wrap the Bitcoin. And in that case, it would be, in my view, a little less profitable, but you could still do it. So that's a way you could earn money. All right, the 6th way would be to just simply lend Bitcoin to hedge funds who want to short. That's just interest business model, in making interest. Same as traditional brokers do it, right? The Robinhoods of the world, they lend your shares to people who want to short if you're not on margin, and if you do that, you may get pennies per share from people who try to short your stock. Common practice, also a controversial practice, like a lot of things in finance. Option number 7, MicroStrategy could start a venture capital fund for Bitcoin-backed venture, and he could invest in things like Noster, things like Ordinal. Ordinal heavily criticized too by Bitcoiners who don't like that, who say it's messing up the blockchain. I'm not sure. I don't have off the top of my head. I don't have Saylor's views on Ordinal, but certainly there would be a lot. There could be initiatives built on Bitcoin, and certainly Saylor could invest in those. And he tried doing that with this email identification service, if you remember, Orange, that he launched last year. I haven't really caught up with that, but you could do something like that, a VC fund or some sort of investing fund related to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And I will conclude this video with more areas where you could make money, and these are still forming in my mind. So these ones, I'm not as conclusive as he could make money on these ones as I am on these 7 ways. So here's other ways you could make money. Well, one big way you could make money is simply sell insurance of all sorts. You could sell car insurance, life insurance, mortgage insurance, home insurance, not health insurance, because health insurance is a fully separate thing with all sorts of regulation. But you could potentially sell insurance and have an edge from the fact that the insurance that you sell, the premiums, right, that you collect on your insurance, they're not invested in bonds, they're invested in Bitcoin. And so the insurance for, the life insurance, the mortgage insurance that you give to your people, that insurance could get cheaper over time by virtue of the Bitcoin going up. And people could be compelled to buy insurance from a Bitcoin-backed company because they know that that company is less likely to raise the premiums in the future because the Bitcoin's going up over time. Now, this could be risky, especially because insurance is a separate business, because there could be a lot of binary events, a lot of long tail events, really rare events that could wipe out the company. And so the more I think about this, the more I think this should be an entirely new company that has nothing to do with MicroStrategy, that just starts with business of trying to issue insurance where the money is not invested in bonds, but where the money is invested in Bitcoin. And there's also a lot of regulation in this space. So could this even be possible with the current regulation in the US? I'm unsure. I would lean and say not right now. But this video is about 2030, right? So who knows what can change in regulation in 2030. And the last one is, and once again, this is regulated, so this is pending regulation changes, but you could imagine MicroStrategy simply offering fiat savings account, like just offer a savings account with better APY. Why couldn't MicroStrategy just open the strategy savings account, 6% yield? And it's a savings account backed by BTC, and it's not a savings account backed by say bonds or mortgage portfolios or anything like that. Similar thing for annuities, right? They could buy back someone's insurance plan and offer income for life in the form of an annuity. So there is something to be done in the area of mutualization, in the area of savings, trust, and all of that sort of stuff. But again, this is an emerging idea in my mind too, and I'm sure there's many more. And if you have more ideas, please put them in the comments section. This is a brainstorm. Hopefully I covered a lot of them, but I'm sure there's more. And that's the beauty of MicroStrategy stock. That's the beauty of being a long-term holder for this stock. And so anyways, this was not financial advice. This is not investment advice. This is only entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.